The Forbidden's library. The twin suns were sinking behind the crystal towers of Zorith Prime, painting the sky in shades of red and gold. Varlek stood at the foot of the Grand Archive, his heart beating faster than it had in years. He was a scholar, trained since birth to study ancient texts, but today was different. Today, he would step into the Forbidden's library, a place where knowledge was locked away from the public, guarded by laws older than the Empire itself. Only a few were ever allowed inside. Varlek had begged, bargained, and proved his loyalty for decades just for this single day. The guards at the gate scanned his identity chip, their cold, black eyes studying him without emotion. "You have 3 hours," one of them said, his voice like stone. "Do not open sealed cases. Do not remove documents, and above all, do not read the red scrolls." Varlek nodded. Hiding his curiosity under a mask of respect, he stepped through the great bronze doors, and the smell of old paper and dust filled his senses. Rows upon rows of shelves stretched into the darkness, filled with data tablets, crystal cubes, and fragile scrolls older than the Empire itself. A pale blue light glowed from the walls, making the shadows long and strange. As he walked deeper, his eyes moved over countless titles, histories of alien wars, maps of lost star systems, poetry from worlds that no longer existed. But then, something caught his eye. On a shelf in the farthest corner, half hidden by other texts, was a scroll unlike any he had seen. Its case was black, marked with faint red lines that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Varlek's pulse quickened. This must be one of the red scrolls the guard had warned him about. He hesitated, looking over his shoulder. The library was silent. But in that silence he thought he could hear faint whispers, like voices speaking in a forgotten tongue. His hand shook as he reached forward and slid the scroll from its place. The seal was broken, as if someone had opened it long ago. He unrolled it carefully, the parchment crackling softly. Strange symbols covered the surface, sharp, bold shapes that felt alive. And in the middle of the scroll was a single word written in the Empire's common language. Humans. Varlek froze. He had heard the word before, but only in rumors. In the official history of the Empire, there was no such species. Some claimed humans were a myth, a bedtime story told to frighten younglings. Others whispered they were an ancient enemy, destroyed long before the Empire's rise. But here, in his hands, was proof. The scroll spoke of humans not as monsters, but as a people of great strength and dangerous freedom. It said they once walked among the stars, changing the fate of entire civilizations. It also spoke of a warning. When the humans return, the stars will burn and be reborn. Varlek's breath came faster. Why was this hidden? Why had the Empire buried this truth? As his eyes scanned the scroll, he noticed a small, faded map drawn in the corner. It marked a location far beyond the known trade routes, deep in uncharted space. Suddenly, a shadow moved between the shelves. Varlek quickly rolled the scroll and slipped it back into place. From the corner of his eye, he saw a figure vanish into the dark aisles. He called out, but no one answered. The air felt heavier now, like the library itself was watching him. Soft sound reached his ears, a low, slow tapping, like footsteps on stone. They were coming closer, then stopping, then starting again. Varlek gripped the strap of his satchel. Something told him that his discovery had not gone unnoticed. And whoever else was here might not want him to leave. His mind raced. He could report the scroll to the archivists, but they would likely seal it away again. Or he could keep the memory of it to himself, study it in secret, and risk everything. The choice was dangerous, but so was the truth. Varlek knew one thing for certain. The name humans had just changed his life forever. The tapping stopped. Silence filled the aisles once more. But Varlek had the strange feeling that somewhere, in the shadows of the Forbidden's library, something had just begun to move, and it would follow him long after he left these walls. Asterisk secrets. Beneath the dust, Varlek could not sleep that night. The name humans echoed in his mind like a drumbeat that refused to fade. He sat in his small study room, surrounded by stacks of ancient notes and star charts. The city outside was quiet, but inside his thoughts there was only noise. He replayed every detail of the scroll in his memory, the sharp symbols, the strange map, the warning written in bold ink. He knew the Empire's historians had carefully erased any record of humans, but why? If humans were only a myth, why hide their name in a forbidden scroll? The more he thought about it, the more he felt like he had stepped into something dangerous. There was an unspoken rule in the Empire: truth was allowed only when it served power, and this truth felt like it could break something much bigger than him. By morning, his decision was made. He would go back to the Forbidden's library, not to steal the scroll, but to search for more. Perhaps there were other records, buried deeper, hidden under layers of lies. That afternoon, Varlek returned, this time with a plan. He kept to the far aisles, avoiding the guards and the silent archivists who watched every movement. He ran his fingers along the edges of the shelves, feeling for cracks or loose panels. Most books were covered in the same thin layer of dust, but in one shadowy corner, he found something different. A shelf that looked ordinary but had dust patterns that didn't match. It was as if someone had recently touched these books. He pulled one out. It was heavier than it looked. Inside, instead of pages, there was a hollow space containing a small folded piece of parchment. Varlek unfolded it with care. The parchment was covered in drawings of strange ships, sleek, sharp, and nothing like the Empire's designs. And at the bottom was a single sentence in common language: "Freedom belongs to those who dare to take it." The handwriting was different from the first scroll. It felt personal, almost like a message written for someone who might one day find it. He was so focused on the parchment that he didn't hear the footsteps behind him until they stopped. A voice spoke, soft, old, but carrying a weight of warning. "You have found what you were not meant to find." Varlek turned. Standing there was Selra, the oldest archivist in the Grand Archive. Her robes were dark and lined with silver, her eyes sharp like she could read the very thoughts in his head. "You know of humans?" Varlek asked, trying to sound calm. Selra studied him for a long moment before answering. "I know enough," she said slowly, "and I know why the Empire hides them." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Humans were not destroyed, Scholar. They disappeared by choice. They left the galaxy to escape the chains of the Empire before it ever rose. And they left behind warnings for those who might one day need them." Varlek's pulse quickened. "You mean they are alive? Somewhere out there?" he asked. Selra nodded faintly. "Alive and watching. The Empire fears them, not because of their weapons, but because of their will. They cannot be ruled." She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small crystal. The size of a coin, it glowed faintly when her fingers touched it. "This," she said, "is not to be shown to anyone. It holds coordinates, ones the Empire does not want charted. Follow them, and you may find the truth, but be warned, Scholar. Once you know it, you can never return to who you were." Before Varlek could ask more, she pressed the crystal into his palm and walked away, disappearing into the endless aisles. He stood there, the faint glow of the crystal shining through his fingers. Somewhere, deep in the galaxy, humans were waiting, and now he had the map to find them. The whispering archivist, the crystal in Varlek's palm, felt warm. Not just warm from his skin, but alive, like it carried a heartbeat of its own. He kept it hidden inside his sleeve as he left the Forbidden's library, but he could feel its faint throb with every step for the next few days. Varlek tried to work on his regular research, but every time he opened a book or data tablet, his mind drifted back to Selra's words. Humans were not destroyed. They disappeared by choice. It was an idea so dangerous that even thinking about it felt like treason. On the fourth night, long after the city had fallen asleep, Varlek was woken by a sound. It was soft like dry leaves brushing together, but it came from inside his own study room. He reached for the light, but a whisper stopped him. "Do not move, Scholar." His heart froze. The voice was low, old, but steady. It was Selra. She was standing in the shadows by his desk, her presence somehow making the air feel heavier. "I do not have much time," she said, stepping closer. "There are eyes on you now, and they are not mine." She glanced toward the window, as if expecting someone to be watching from the rooftops. Varlek swallowed hard. "You gave me this crystal," he said, "but you never told me what's really out there." Selra leaned close, her voice barely above a breath. "You are not the first to seek them. Others have tried, but most never returned, and those who did came back different. Some spoke in strange tongues, some carried weapons that could burn a fleet to ash. One came back with nothing but a message carved into his arm. It read, 'Freedom belongs to those who dare to take it.'" Varlek felt a chill run through him. He had seen those exact words on the parchment hidden in the library. The same hand must have left them there. Selra reached into her robes again. This time, she pulled out a thin strip of metal engraved with the same alien symbols from the red scrolls. "Take this," she said. "It will unlock the path once you reach the coordinates. Without it, the humans will see you as an intruder and destroy you before you can speak." Varlek took the strip carefully. It was cold, so cold it almost burned his skin. The metal felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried more than just its weight. Selra's eyes narrowed. "You must leave soon, scholar. The Empire has already sensed your curiosity. They will try to stop you, not because they fear what you will find, but because they fear what you will become after you find it." Before Varlek could respond, a sudden thud echoed from the corridor outside. Selra stiffened. "They are here," she whispered, her voice now urgent. "Go to the eastern docks, berth 7. There is an old ship called the Quiet Star. Its captain owes me a debt. Show him the strip and he will take you beyond the borders." Without another word, she turned and slipped into the darkness. Varlek ran to the window. But when he looked outside, she was gone. The street below was empty, lit only by the pale glow of the twin moons. But in the shadows across the way, a faint red glimmer blinked once. A surveillance drone, watching, waiting. Varlek stepped back from the window, his pulse racing. The crystal in his sleeve pulsed again, almost like it could sense danger. He knew Selra was right. He had no time left. Whatever lay beyond those coordinates, he had to find it before the Empire's agents found him. Journey to the Lost System. The eastern docks of Zorth Prime were nothing like the shining towers in the city center. Here, the air smelled of rust and engine fumes. Shadows clung to every corner, and the only lights came from flickering neon. Signs in alien languages. Varlek moved quickly, keeping his hood low. Every sound felt sharper. Every glance from strangers felt longer than it should. Berth 7 was almost hidden between two giant cargo freighters, and there, sitting quietly in the dim light, was the Quiet Star. It was old, its metal hull patched with plates from different ships. Its engines humming low like a sleeping beast. It didn't look fast, but it looked like it could survive a war. A tall figure stepped out from the ship's ramp. A pale-skinned alien with deep scars across his face and a long coat made of some dark, heavy fabric. "You must be the scholar," the captain said in a rough voice. Selra's name passed between them, without words, only through the flash of the engraved metal strip Varlek carried. The captain nodded. "Then we leave now, before anyone decides you don't." The ship rose from the dock in silence. The city lights faded behind them, replaced by the endless black of space. Stars glittered in the distance, cold and ancient. Varlek sat in the co-pilot's chair, staring at the coordinates glowing faintly on the crystal in his hand. The journey was not smooth. 3 times, Varlek felt the ship shudder, as if something unseen had brushed against it. Once, a strange static hiss filled the comms, carrying whispers in a language he didn't know. The captain frowned but said nothing. Out here, strange things happened, especially in the dark corridors between mapped space and the void. 2 days into the voyage, the scanners picked up a signal. It was faint, repeating every 13 seconds. Varlek leaned closer. It wasn't just a signal, it was a fragment of music, a slow, rising pattern of notes that made the hair on his neck stand. "It's human," he whispered without thinking. The captain gave him a sharp look, but didn't ask how he knew. As they followed the signal, space began to change. The stars grew fewer, the darkness deeper. Then, ahead, something massive appeared, a broken space gate. Floating in silence, its surface was covered in strange symbols, the same ones from the Red Scrolls. Even damaged, the structure radiated power. When the quiet star drew near, the crystal in Varlek's hand began to glow brighter. The gate answered, lighting up in a slow, pulsing rhythm. The captain muttered a curse. "This thing's waking up." Before either of them could react, the gate's center flared with blinding white light. Gravity twisted, and the ship was pulled forward. Inside the gate, there was no space, only a tunnel of shifting colors and shapes. Varlek felt weightless and heavy at the same time. Images flashed in his mind, tall figures in human form. Planets burning, crowds cheering, a single word echoing again and again: return. When the light finally faded, the ship emerged into a star system unlike any in the Empire's charts. A single green-blue planet floated ahead, its surface alive with deep forests, silver rivers, and scattered ruins that shone faintly in the sunlight. The scanners beeped. There were life signs, many life signs. Varlek's breath caught. They were here. The world that time forgot. The green-blue planet grew larger in the viewport. Clouds drifted lazily over emerald forests and endless oceans. From above, it looked peaceful, untouched, as if the galaxy's chaos had never reached it. Varlek couldn't look away. It was nothing like the metallic worlds of the Empire. It was alive in a way he had never felt before. The captain brought the quiet star into a slow orbit. "Scanners are picking up structures," he muttered. Varlek leaned over the screen. Amid the forests and valleys, there were shapes, perfect lines. Smooth walls, colossal statues, ruins, yes, but still standing proud after what must have been thousands of years. They chose a landing site near the largest set of ruins. As the ship descended, the details came into focus. The statues were not alien, they were human, tall figures with determined faces carved in stone, holding both books and weapons. Some wore armor, others robes. It was as if they had captured every side of themselves, warrior and thinker, dreamer and fighter. The ramp lowered, and warm air filled with the scent of flowers and rain rushed inside. Varlek stepped onto the soil, feeling the ground give slightly beneath his boots. Bird-like creatures scattered into the trees, their wings flashing with bright colors. The ruins towered above him, their walls covered in carvings. He ran his fingers over one, smooth in some places, worn in others. The carvings told stories, battles among the stars, fleets breaking through enemy lines, crowds of different alien species standing beside humans as equals. He was recording everything when something caught his attention. Footprints, fresh footprints. They were human-shaped, and they led deeper into the ruins. Varlek followed them slowly, his pulse quickening with each step. The sound of water reached his ears. He came to a clearing where a small stream flowed between moss-covered stones, and there across the water he saw them, 3 figures tall and strong, their faces unmistakably human. They wore clothing made from both leather and fabric, reinforced with strange metal plates. Their skin bore marks, tattoos, and patterns that seemed to glow faintly under the sunlight. One of them looked directly at him. There was no fear in their eyes, only curiosity and a strange kind of recognition. The tallest stepped forward and spoke in a voice that carried across the stream. "You are not of this world, yet you carry our sign." Varlek's hand instinctively went to the crystal in his sleeve. The human's eyes flicked to it and then back to him. "We have been waiting," the human said. His words were calm, but they felt like the beginning of something far bigger than either of them. The meeting, the stream between them, shimmered in the sunlight. For a long moment, neither side moved. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying the scent of rain and earth. Then the tallest human stepped forward, crossing the stream in a few easy strides. His presence was commanding, yet calm. There was something in his eyes and understanding, far older than his face suggested. "You came through the gate," the man said, his voice deep and steady. Varlek nodded slowly, unsure how much to reveal. The man's gaze drifted to the small crystal hidden in Varlek's sleeve. "That," he said, "means Selra still lives. And if she sent you, then the time is close." Varlek swallowed. "You know Selra?" he asked. The man gave a faint smile. "We know many things the Empire wishes we did not. We know they twist history. We know they fear the idea of freedom. And we know they fear us most of all." 2 more humans joined them, a woman with braided hair and sharp eyes, and a broad-shouldered man carrying a weapon unlike anything Varlek had seen. The woman spoke next. "You found the red scrolls, didn't you? You've read the warning." Varlek hesitated, then nodded. Her expression hardened. "Then you understand when we return, the stars will burn and be reborn." The words hung in the air like a distant thunder. Varlek asked the question, burning in his mind, why hide? "If you are as powerful as the scrolls say, why not stop the Empire?" The tall man stepped closer. "Because power alone cannot win. The galaxy must be ready to choose freedom. If we came back too soon, the people would see us only as conquerors. We wait, we prepare, and when the moment comes, we act." Varlek felt the weight of their words. The humans were not hiding out of fear. They were waiting out of strategy. Every ruined city, every ancient statue, every story carved into stone was not a memory. It was a message, a message. To the future, the broad-shouldered man finally spoke, his voice like gravel. "The coordinates you carry are not the end of the map. Scholar, they are the beginning. There are others like us, hidden across the galaxy. When the signal is given, we will all rise." Varlek's mind raced. If what they were saying was true, the Empire's rule was standing on borrowed time. But then the woman leaned in close, her voice dropping to a whisper only he could hear. "You must decide, Varlek. You can return to your empire, forget what you've seen, and live your life as it was. You can stand with us and be ready to set the stars on fire." The return with fire. The decision weighed on Varlek like a mountain. The humans stood before him, waiting, their eyes calm but sharp. They were offering him more than knowledge. They were offering him a choice that could change the galaxy. In that quiet forest clearing, with the ruins towering behind them, Varlek finally spoke. "I will return," he said slowly. The tall man's expression didn't change, but there was a faint light in his eyes. "Then you know what must be done," he replied. The humans gave him no weapons, no soldiers. Instead, they gave him a small sealed cylinder, smooth and black, with no markings. "When the day comes," the woman said, "open this where the whole galaxy can see. Until then, you are our shadow inside the Empire." The journey back through the broken gate felt different. The colors in the tunnel seemed sharper, the air heavier. Varlek's thoughts burned with everything he had seen. By the time the quiet star emerged into known space, he no longer felt like the same scholar who had entered the Forbidden's library. When he returned to Zorith Prime, the city looked the same: shining towers, bustling streets, the distant hum of ships in the sky. But now he saw it for what it was, a cage wrapped in light, a cage that millions didn't even realize they were in. He went back to the Grand Archive as if nothing had happened. To the outside world, Varlek was still a quiet scholar, buried in dusty texts. But deep inside the Forbidden's library, in a shelf no one had touched for centuries, he placed a new scroll. It was written in simple words, a story of a green-blue world, of statues and voices that carried the weight of freedom. At the end of the scroll were the same words he had seen carved into ancient stone. "Freedom belongs to those who dare to take it, somewhere far beyond the Empire's reach." The humans were watching, waiting, preparing, and when their return came, the stars would not simply burn, they would be reborn.